Welcome back to Country Cow Designs. I'm Jo, and in this video I'm just going to talk about buying a bag making sewing machine. So if you've watched our channel before, you'll notice that my machine is missing. So my beloved Bernina 930 had to go in for repair, and they haven't completely been able to repair it. It's working well, but there's still like some little issues with it, and I'm told that that's kind of going to be how it goes from now on, because getting replacement parts when there's an electronic issue is very difficult. So this led me to needing to buy a new machine. So as you know, I make bags. I don't really sew clothes or anything like that. So I was looking at purely bag making sewing machines. I ideally wanted to keep it as a domestic machine. So I asked the mailing list for references for what machine they use to make bags and what they love and hate about it. And I've got so much feedback that I want to share with you. So I tried to organize it into sort of like 4 categories. So hopefully this video will help if you're looking for a sewing machine for bag making. If you stick it out to the end of the video, I will reveal the machine that I've chosen, and also a very good discount if you want to get the same machine. So we've managed to negotiate a great discount with the supplier that I got it from. So the 4 categories that I came up with was domestic sewing machines, vintage sewing machines, straight stitch sewing machines, and industrial sewing machines. So domestic sewing machines, I was recommended ones, you know, you can get a domestic sewing machine for £100 or you can get one for £9,000. So it's a difficult bracket really. It's not really a bracket. You say domestic sewing machine, but there's such an expanse of machines included in that bracket. Some of them are great for bag making, but they're also great for lots of other things. And do you really want to be paying all of the extra money for like a machine that also does embroidery and also does 100 different stitches if you're only going to use it for bag making? So there's pros and cons there with domestic machines, and obviously they have their limitations. Vintage machines are great because generally they're cheaper. You can grab, say, a Singer 201 for £20 maybe. They don't have computers, so they're less likely to have problems there, electronic issues. They are generally heavier metal machines, and weight actually makes quite a big difference when you're bag making. The heavier the machine, it means that it's not wobbling around on you. It's actually one of the big selling points that they have for some of the semi-industrial machines. Vintage machines, they are great, but like with mine, when something does go wrong, it can be hard to source the parts. So there's pros and cons to those. Straight stitch machines. Okay, this is where I think I'm going to really concentrate on in this video. Straight stitch machines, they only do one thing. They sew straight. You don't have a zigzag stitch. You don't have any of these fancy stretch stitches. You don't have any other stitches. So it's less likely to go wrong because you generally don't have like a computer or anything in it. It only does one thing, and when it does that, it does it very well. It does lovely, neat stitches. A lot of people commented that their straight stitch machines, the bobbin stitching on the bottom, is just as neat as the top stitching. So that is really great. If you're only sewing a straight line, which for bags, you know, is what we do, it's just brilliant. They are probably the machines that I'm going to concentrate on the most. Then we've got industrial sewing machines. Industrial sewing machines, fabulous for bag making, fabulous. The problem with an industrial is you couldn't just have it on your worktop like I do here. It's not a portable machine. They come, you know, built in to a table. So if you're limited on space, or if you have your sewing machine in one of your living spaces like your dining room or something, it might not work for you. They're also great with heavy materials, but if you're changing a lot between like cotton and then you're using vinyl for the outside and things like that, you're going to have to get used to adjusting your tensions a lot. And that's what I've noticed when I'm using Adam's Sailrite machine, because he's using leather 1 minute and then I'm using cotton, and I've got to change all the tensions, change the bobbin tension. So that it takes like a little bit more getting used to. They're a bit more rustic and hands-on, let's say. Generally, they are straight stitch only. I mean, you can get other ones and you can get column stitches and all of this, but just, you know, broadly speaking, the ones that we're looking at, they're generally straight stitch only. And you normally will sort of assemble and service them yourself. So they're not like domestic machines, they're very different. Another difference with industrial machines is that a lot of them have a compound walking foot, which is quite different to a normal machine where you can add a walking foot, but it's not as effective. If you've used a compound walking foot, like Adam has on his Cellrite fabricator, then you'll know what I mean. It works quite differently. It's really effective, especially with like thick and sticky materials. Industrial machines are great if you've got the space, and they're particularly great if you've got the space to have an industrial machine and a domestic. Then you can do your cotton linings on a domestic and your exterior of your bag on an industrial. That's the dream. But not all of us have space. So I'm just going to go through a few questions that I think you need to ask yourself before you choose a machine. Okay, so the first thing you need to ask yourself, what am I going to use this sewing machine for? Are you just making bags? Or are you going to be quilting? Are you going to be doing garments? Are you going to be doing embroidery? If you're just making bags, that's the route that I'm going to go down. So that's what I'll be discussing with these straight stitch machines. That's brilliant. But a straight stitch machine is going to be no good if you want to do garment sewing and you want to be able to do, like sewing stretch fabrics and things like that. So I suppose the next question is, do you have space and the budget for more than one machine? If you've already got like a lovely domestic machine that you use for all your garment sewing, or you've already got your embroidery machine and you're just looking for a machine for bag making, straight stitch is fantastic. Straight stitch or industrial, depending, what kind of materials you want to use and which way you want to go. So the next question would be, what fabrics do you want to use? If you love, like me, using cotton, wax canvas, cork, that kind of thing, a straight stitch machine is going to be great for you. If you want to do vinyls, thick leathers, all of that sort of thing, an industrial is probably going to be more up your street. But do you have space for an industrial table? Bearing in mind that they're not like on your worktop, you're going to need space for a whole table. Do you have space for that? You also need to think about what's your budget. Some of the domestic sewing machines are very expensive. So if you want a domestic machine that does everything and it's going to be great bag making, you could even be looking at spending like £7,000 to £9,000, because some of the ones that were recommended to me were Bernina ones. They are like between £7,000 and £9,000. Compare that to a straight stitch machine, which you can normally get for about £1,000, thereabouts. That's a huge difference. And if you're not going to use it for anything else, you're only going to use it for bags, it doesn't make sense to be buying all of the extra features that you don't need. So the next question you've got to ask yourself, what features do you actually need? You can pay a lot of extra money for a lot of extra features that look and sound great, but if you're not going to use them, then you could end up investing a lot more money than you need to. So decide what features you can't live without and then go from there. And I would definitely recommend testing out machines before you buy them. I went down to a shop local to me. Unfortunately, I didn't end up buying from there for other reasons, but they were so helpful. I went into this local sewing shop. They have machines that you can try. They're very knowledgeable, so you can ask all of your questions, get all of your questions out. And then it's great if they're local and you can take it back there for servicing. It's just brilliant. So it's worth just like taking a drive and going and trying out machines. I wouldn't recommend just buying a machine off the internet without ever trying it. That can be pretty risky. Okay, so for those of you who do want to get a domestic sewing machine, I'm going to put a list here of or maybe it's going to be over here, who knows where Adam will put it, a list of the most popular domestic machines that were recommended to us by the mailing list. So a lot of these are very expensive, which is the reason I didn't go down the route of getting another domestic machine, because it was way out of my budget. But these machines have been recommended as the best for bag making and also being able to do, garments and embroidery and other things like that. Straight stitch machine is the way I went in the end, so I'll soon let you know which machine I decided on. So we'll put a list up now of the most highly recommended straight stitch machines. Now you need to bear in mind that depending what country you live in, the price is going to be wildly different. So the machine I wanted and that was recommended the most was the Brother PQ 1500 SL. And if you're in the USA, that machine, I think it was $800. And it's very similar, like all of the straight stitch machines from what I can tell are very similar. They have slight differences. The presser foot goes slightly higher. It's got slightly heavier pressure on it. It has it's slightly heavier the better, I'm told. There's little differences to all of them, but they are all broadly similar. And the Brother is the one I wanted to go for because $800, that's an amazing price. And it was recommended to me by a number of really good bag makers, so I knew it's got to be good. However, that's not available in Britain. The next 5 machines I wanted to get, also not available in Britain. I then settled on the Janome 1600p, which is like the slightly older version of the HD9, slightly less fancy, but still had everything I wanted. And that, I believe, was going to be £900. That also is no longer available in the UK. So after a lot of hunting, I discovered that there's currently only one straight stitch sewing machine available in the UK for sale. All of the Jukies that I was recommended, not available right now. So the only one that was available, and the one I ended up getting, you probably guessed, is the Janome HD9. Which, if you're in the UK, is not too bad of a price. But if you're in the USA, interestingly, it's a lot more expensive. So if you're in the USA, I would recommend going for one of the, trying out one of the Jukies or the Brother, because from what I can tell, they're very, very similar, and yet the price differences across the pond are completely different. So I would definitely recommend checking out one of those. So here it is. So I'm going to say this is about my 8th choice in sewing machine. But that's not because it's not amazing. It is amazing, and it was recommended to me by a ton of people. But I knew that every UK bag designer has it, and I was kind of wanting to go for something different and also something cheaper. But hey, little did I know that in the UK it's very difficult to get hold of a sewing machine. So this is what I've ended up with, the HD9. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you. When you buy a new sewing machine, you should definitely try and haggle, because one thing that I learnt during this search is that I don't know if this is applicable elsewhere, but it's always worth a try. But here in the UK, there's always room to negotiate, it seems. I know it goes against your natural, character. I find it very uncomfortable haggling as well, but there was a lot of room to haggle because this was out of my budget. And so I discussed it with a couple of different suppliers, and I ended up finding one that was willing to do it for the price I needed it to be. So I'm pretty happy, and it's a very good machine. The difference between this and the one that I thought I was going to get, which was the Janome 1600, is that this can take thicker threads. So it can take industrial type threads like Tex 70 and things like that. So it's got some extra tension discs. It's also got a jumbo bobbin, which the other Janome doesn't have. But that's pretty much the only differences that I could gather, and it's quite a big price difference considering that those are the only differences. So if you have the Janome 1600 available in your country, it's definitely worth checking out, in my opinion. So if you're in the UK and you're looking for a bag making machine and you're happy to have a straight stitch only, I would definitely recommend this. The company that I got it from, taisew.co.uk, agreed to give us a discount for this video, which is awesome. So if you don't feel comfortable haggling, you don't have to, which is great. So we've got a 10% discount, which is awesome. I will put the details in the video description, and I'll also pin the top comment just explaining how you can grab that discount. But really you just need to give them a call and let them know that you've been referred by Country Cow Designs for a 10% discount off the HD9. So that's pretty awesome. If you're outside the UK, sorry, I can't help with that. But if you're in the USA, I'd definitely recommend looking at one of the Brothers or the Jukies, because they're going to be much more affordable for a very similar type of machine. So I've only used this machine so far for a couple of projects, so I'm not ready to do a complete review, but what I will do is another video in a few weeks' time. Once I've made a number of bags on it, I'll do a complete review to discuss what I love about this machine and really go into it in depth. So I've got to say a massive thank you to my mailing list guys who sent me all of your feedback on different machines. It's been so helpful, and I'm really, really grateful because you helped me make a decision on a machine. And I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, and hope to see you soon. Bye.